Welcome to today's discussion. In our last session, we have discussed about the exchange rate, or I'll rephrase it, foreign exchange dealer valuation, a special type of valuation which need to be determined by a foreign exchange dealer who is going to opt RBI rate as a basis for determination of value of supply. So, are there any differences in it? Yes, there are two different methods that are possible. When it comes to RBI reference rate, the model goes like this. There is going to be a selling rate, there is going to be a buying rate of foreign exchange dealer. At a buying rate, foreign exchange dealer buys foreign currency. At a given selling rate, foreign exchange dealer sell foreign currency. The gap between RBI reference rate and that buying rate or selling rate is considered as value of supply. In cases where RBI reference rate is not available, we have the gross amount. Gross amount into 1% would determine the value of supply. When we have been discussing relating to this activity, no doubt that transactions, it has to be determined every transaction wise. Is there an alternate method? Yes, Rule 32 2B suggests of the alternate method. At a final level, we would recommend you to remember the section number, rule number 32 2A RBI reference rate, 32 2B, which is going to be based on certain ad hoc percentages, a flat percentage. In the next method, the basis is on the gross amount. What is going to be your gross amount is the fundamental question that is asked. Now, gross amount means what? Buying rate of foreign exchange dealer into number of foreign currency unit is called as gross amount of currency exchanged. Selling rate of foreign exchange dealer into selling rate of foreign exchange dealer into your number of foreign currencies units will give you the gross amount. So every transaction done by a foreign exchange dealer, that is possible. Government proposes in this rule 3 slab, if the transaction gross amount is less than 1 lakh, one category, more than 1 lakh but less than 10 lakh, second category, more than 10 lakhs as third category. So like how we have a salary slab 5 lakh, 10 lakh, and beyond 10 lakh. Here it is going to be 1 lakh, 1 to 10 lakh, and beyond 10 lakh. If the gross amount of currency exchanged is less than 1 lakh rupees or up to 1 lakh rupees, 1 lakh and above only will go to next limit. Somebody will have a curious doubt. What exactly 1 lakh, sir? What will happen? Exactly 1 lakh, you will apply the first slab only up to 1 lakh. The words not used is not more than 1 lakh. The words not used is not less than 1 lakh. Words not used is less than 1 lakh. Words used are up to 1 lakh. Up to means that number. So come back here. Up to 1 lakh rupees, there is going to be a transaction. Let's say somebody has exchanged US dollars. The buying rate of the respective foreign exchange dealer, let's say 70 rupees, 70. Let's also assume some $1,000 is got exchanged. 1,000 into 70, 70,000 rupees. This transaction qualifies here as the amount, gross amount is less than 1 lakh. 70,000 into 1%, which will be 700 rupees. Value of supply will be 700. There would be a possibility that somebody is exchanging $100 only, $100, same 70. The foreign exchange dealer buy $100. 100 into 70, 7,000 rupees. 7,000 into 1%, 70 rupees. At that time, 70 rupees or rupees 250 Whichever is higher will be the value of supply. Sir, is it need to be determined per transaction, qua transaction? The answer would be yes. Per transaction, every transaction it has to be determined. So for a further discussion, for the further deliberation, points that need to be made notice, no doubt it is to be determined transaction wise. Again, no doubt after determining transaction wise, the whole discussion itself is going to be based on the number 1% value or rupees 250, whichever is higher. Sir, why that 250 rupees? Idea is minimum value of supply is 250 rupees. In other words, if the gross amount is going to be less than 25,000 rupees, less than 25,000 rupees, minimum value addition, minimum value of supply will be 250. See, government prescribe the method. Government have all rights to fix value. Because in these businesses at all, actually we will not know what is the profit earned by this foreign currency dealers. Okay, so there itself a little assumption involved in it. So government's assumptions will always win. Coming back here, in case if a person is going to deal in a transaction and it surpasses that 1 lakh, for our convenience, will double the currency. This time it is sold for foreign currency. Let's say pound is sold for 90 rupees, 90 rupees. The foreign exchange dealer sells 2000 Great Britain pounds. 2000 Great Britain pounds. So every Great Britain pound is 90 rupees. So 90 into 2000, we get that extra portion, lakh and 80,000. Now, how are we going to determine? Make a small point here. For the first thing is, in this transaction, we will say GACE. Gross amount is how much? Lakh and 80,000, which means it comes and fit in the second slab. For the first 1 lakh, 1,000 rupees. Sir, somehow I read a model like this. Recollect your salary. We would have read like this only. For the first 1 lakh, it is 1,000 rupees. Sir, how you get this 1,000? Apply the same rule. 1 lakh into 1%, 1,000. Plus, anything in excess of 1 lakh is 0.5%. 80,000 into 0.5%, 400. 1,400 will become value of supply. Hope you could able to appreciate that 0.5% of GACE minus rupees 1 lakh. That element alone is missing here. Let me repeat, 0.5% of GACE minus that 1 lakh, first 1 lakh. Anything in excess, because for that 1 lakh only this 1,000 deeming fiction comes into place, or that first addition comes into place. Sir, in a single transaction, my value of supply is going to be more than 10 lakh. Is it possible? In my view, definitely yes, it is possible. We cannot say it is not possible at all. 200% it is possible. So, in case if there is going to be a transaction where it is going to be more than 10 lakh rupees, then for the first 10 lakhs, it will be rupees 5,500. How, sir? Same logic. First 1 lakh into 1%, 1,000 rupees. Balance 9 lakh into 0.5%, which is going to be 4,500 rupees. A summation of both will be 5,500. And anything in excess of 10 lakhs, that alone will be liable for 0.01% of gross amount of currency exchange. Mark my word, 95% of foreign exchange dealers follow this method because this is the easiest method. It's not tough at all. It's absolutely easy. Easy to the core. Let me repeat. A foreign exchange dealer is freely allowed to do both the methods, to do transactions in both the method. Whichever he wants, he can opt. obviously he will opt a transaction where value of supply is less. Obviously he will opt. And once a decision is exercised during the financial year, that decision cannot be changed. He can take some time and decide. Once he decided during the financial year, it cannot be changed. Hope all of us got this grip. A sudden doubt will come. Sir, what is this 60,000 that is appearing over here? Now, when it comes to that 60,000 is concerned, it is a maximum value addition per transaction. Very interesting to note. 5,500 plus 0.01% of gross amount of currency exchanged in excess of 10 lakhs. In excess of 10 lakh, that word is missing, but I'm sure you all will agree with me that that is how it has to be interpreted. In excess of 10 lakhs, which you will arrive on number, that number, or 60,000, whichever is less. Sir, what is the idea behind this 250 and 60,000? Government made a point. Per transaction, my minimum value of supply is 250 and maximum value of supply is 60,000. Sir, when I will reach that 60,000, I think somebody worked and told me when you cross 5.5 crores or something, that is one transaction. Let me repeat, not group of transactions, one transaction. Single transaction. It's single transaction. True. Can able to appreciate this discussion? Yes. So we will do a case study problem sometime later, not today. If we do today a case study problem, mark my word, all of us virtually sitting, all of us will land up at a correct answer. Mark my word. There, at no speck of doubt, we will make a mistake. Okay, because on a beautiful morning when you sit and learn something, that goes into the system in a very great way, and I don't find any challenge at all here. On a irrational day, when we pick up a problem, a case study question, a decision making question, which was already appeared in a CA final exam, and which is forming part of a practice problem in one of the test papers, we would take up that problem of a Prithvi Foreign Exchange dealer, Prithvi Foreign Exchange Limited. That problem, remind me, I'll not take today. So why? Very simple answer, mark my word. We all will land up at a very right and a correct answer, which I don't want for this morning. Coming back here, getting into the second type of foreign exchange, second type of business, air travel agent. As far as air travel agent is concerned, government is very clear. In case of air travel agent who is involved in buying and selling of air tickets. Today, that business is different shape, but that business used to be in a very good shape when things were before normal on the testing, prior to testing times. Coming back here, in this situation, how to determine the value of supply? Often doubts used to come. As far as value of supply determination in case of air travel agent is concerned, value of supply will be, if it is a domestic ticket, 5% of basic fare. 5% of basic fare would be VOS, value of supply. In case if it is an international air ticket booking, 10% of basic fare will become value of supply. Some of us might have a doubt. Sir, in case of these special businesses, am I mandatorily need to follow only this method, or can I take up any other routes that are available? For all of you, I'll just remind you the section 15, subsection 5, the way in which that words are used. Value of certain supply of goods or services which are notified by the government shall be determined in such manner as may be prescribed. Now, why I'm emphasizing here, because there are cases where an air travel agent actually gets a commission of 200 rupees. Actually, he gets a commission of 200 rupees. But if you pick up his base fare for a domestic ticket, will be 5,000 rupees. And on that 5,000 rupees, if you're going to multiply 5 percentage, sum up, that number comes to 250 rupees. A genuine doubt comes in, do I need to pay on the earnings of 200, or do I need to pay on 5% of basic fare, closing my eyes comfortably? 15.5 envisages value has to be determined only in the prescribed manner. No alternate routes are possible. Highly exceptional discussion, highly litigious view if somebody follow any other methods. But from a specific exam perspective, air travel agent value of supply will be 5% of basic fare, domestic bookings, international booking, 10% of basic fare. Because many times a few of our clients comes out and discuss with me on one-to-one, Mr. Ganesh, you simply come out and highlight and say 10% of basic fare. My commission itself is not that number. I book, no doubt, I book a ticket for 3.75 lakhs from Chennai, Dubai, New York, back from New York, Dubai, and Chennai. No doubt I book a round trip ticket. It cost me 3.25 lakhs. But the core question here is the basic fare that is associated with it is 75,000. Let me repeat, 3.25 lakhs is the total cost of the ticket. Basic fare is only 75,000. I'm sure a lot of us have an experience of these differences. In the air travel tickets, always basic fare is separate, fuel charge is separate, taxes separate, cut fee is separate, this fee, that fee, food, everything is shown separately. Value of supply will be on the basic fare, not on the full ticket value. 3.25 lakhs, 75,000 into 10%, 7,500. Ganesh, by selling this ticket, I just got 3,000 rupees. You asked me to pay tax on 3,000 rupees. I agree to you, but you're asking me to pay tax on 7,500 rupees. That number I have not achieved at all. I do agree. That's business. That's a different call. In a practical perspective, a litigious view can be taken. But from an exam perspective, 10% of basic fare, 75,000 into 10%, 7,500 value of supply. And on that, 18% GST has to be calculated. That sums up a discussion relating to air travel agent, rarely tested from a final perspective. Exceptional discussion. Sir, if I get a question, if you get a question, which means that is the easiest paper under the world, kindly ensure it. I still remember, uh, don't ask me why and all. Somehow either the universe decides or the Almighty decides. November 2019 CA final, December 2019 CMA final, and CS 2000 and CS December 2019 CS final paper. All three papers are one of the easiest paper till now came. Mark my word. If a person has not cleared that paper, I think there is fundamentally some challenge in their understanding. Among these three papers, CMA December 2019 is a laddu. Mark my word. I'm given with no surprise somebody who gets in, who has an access to that paper, by seeing it itself, they'll feel why I read CMA final. I often thought I was, or I'm misleading it, or I'm misreading the paper. In fact, I went and verified the code once again and came back, because so much I felt, because the paper was so damn easy. Beyond that, that paper cannot be tough. That's all I would say. A paper like that will have a question like this. What is the charm here? No charm. Someone should know. Ticket will have, air ticket will have many charges, many. See, I'm sure a lot of us will have the habit of seeing tickets, reading through tickets, but sometimes we are overlooked certain things. If next time when we concentrate, there would be one base fare, there would be taxes, there will be fuel charges, there will be PHF charges, passenger handling fee. There will be cut fee, a port levy collected. There will be BHF charges, baggage handling fee. Like this, many are collected, and it differs from port to port, just for information. Airport to airport, it would differ. Now, why I want to highlight this is these are all collected on the air tickets. Basic price, nil. Basic price is the base, only on that commission is paid. That is why that is being kept as the base moving forward. In case of life insurance business, often one more doubt that comes up to us is why general insurance business is not brought in here. I'm sure all of us will understand. General insurance business address only one aspect of the risk. Sorry, one aspect of the insurance, which is risk alone is addressed. Risk and risk only is going to be general insurance business. So what you are trying to say, if a company takes a policy for its stock against flood, fire, and all those safety related matters, then if something happens, the insurance company need to indemnify the insurer. If in case nothing happens, that money goes to the insurance company. It's always one-way track. There's no two-way track. But in a life insurance business, it is not like that. And that too, some of those ancient models that we had in life insurance, such as your endowment policies. What do we mean by endowment policy? Where a vanilla insurance model, where where somebody will be keep on periodically paying money, and after reaching a particular point, once somebody reaches a particular point, uh, money will be returned back because that fellow has survived. There is something called a survival benefit. Along with that, it will be returned. The transaction itself is modeled like that. The business itself is modeled like that. And later, many people criticized insurance is not investment. To attract a middle income group, to attract a little upper income group on the investment portfolios, today insurance company comes with investment linked models and all. For example, we will collect money from you, we'll invest in the mutual fund of the insurance, mutual fund of the market, and it would perform. Normally, if you invest, you'll get only 5% return. Because we are investing in market, we'll get about 8% return. Because we are getting 8% return, your growth is also assured. 15 years later, 25,000 rupees, if you pay 15 years later, we will give you 15 lakhs. Okay. That's that. I'm not stepping into it, but point here is for the fellow, if I survive 15 years, I'll get 25 lakhs. If in case some eventuality happens, my sum assured will go to the respective person. So, respective nominees. The idea here is, as the business itself is little different, government want to be little clear on the life insurance business, where they come out and say, in case of investment policy. See, whether something is an investment policy or something is an annuity policy or something is other than all these two policy is a subject matter of discussion by itself. Don't be bothered. That will not be part of your exam at all. That is a part of insurance business. What is an investment policy is a separate 2.5 hours discussion by itself. What is SPAP, single premium annuity policy? Or what do you mean by annuity policy? What are the different types of annuity policy? Whether a annuity policy linked with a mutual fund or a fund, I would not say mutual fund, how it has to be treated. An annuity policy not linked with a fund, how it has to be treated. Deliberation by itself. Let's not step in all this. That is somebody getting deep into the insurance business and learning it. For us, question will say investment policy. For us, question will say this is an annuity policy. That too, single premium annuity policy. Single premium annuity policy means one time I had revenue. I want to protect my future. I'm not sure a revenue like this I will generate over a period of time or not. Because this revenue came now, yes, I would have done this. At this moment, I would share one of the client who took a 5 crore rupee single premium annuity policy. I still remember been discussing with him. He was a entrepreneur by himself and had different challenges. And somehow he been was a little known in that segment of startups. A nice venture capitalist, invested in many new things. I still remember one of his work, which is currently going on, is they have a set of questions. I think I should have discussed with a lot of you. They have a set of questions. They will ask a third standard kid or a fourth standard kid. They have a set of questions in their hand. For example, how ant goes in the straight line. Okay. Upon a triangle, can a square can go? Uh, and few other questions. What are all the birds that fly along with eagle? So many questions they ask, like this only. Okay, they have a list of questions. In fact, he also showed me one or two lists. I tried to answer it. Our IQ and all is on a 20 questions, something at 3 or 4 level only. Okay, so whatever be it, no comment on that. Coming back here, these questions are asked. Then I asked him, see, by asking these questions, what you're going to do, what you're going to achieve. He said, Ganesh, somebody should know that ant leaves a fragrance wherever it goes. The next ant which follows the fragrance, and then only it moves on the straight line. Wherever the ant goes, ant leaves a fragrance. So that student is good in his zoology, good in his learning animals, good in learning something in connection with animals. So probably he can be potential 1, 2, 3, 4. A question on space we will ask. Expand NASA. Some kids at third standard level come out and explain, fourth standard level come out and explain. So we will say they are interested in space. So we can start read the child's understanding, interest, and based on that, we can suggest them this student will be good in science, this student will be good in this field, that field, and all. So this for this prediction, we ask this about 25%. And this is an evaluation we do year on year. It's not a one-time activity, year on year, and we collect from each student 1,000 rupees. That is, when the student is at third standard level, you will decide whether that student has to pursue engineering or commerce or this or that, whatever be it. Let me stop at the whole discussion. And I was very interested upon a triangle, whether a square can go. I initially told, let me be honest, I said yes. Then I thought about it. Ganesh once again think he told me. Then upon a triangle, how a square can go? Square cannot go. Ganesh, which means the student is good in maths. He understands the shape, size, and its meters. Now, our discussion here is when people like this comes up with a new kind of business models, their idea is they'll tie up with at least 50, 60 schools in Tamil Nadu, so that from each school, at least if they get about 100 students, they get a nice billing into 1000 rupees. And this is recurring in nature. Kindly understand, every year recurring in nature for the next 5 to 8 years. Minimum of 5 years, maximum of 8 years. So they look this as a business model, and very interesting to note, one fine day, one Dubai-based, foreign-based investor came, bought this business and walked away. When I'm aware of this business model, I'm aware of this fellow is an IIT fellow, IIT Madras, and then he is having office there, and then he's doing everything. I asked them, see, what is this? What's Sam here? You develop the whole business, and one fine day it reached a particular level. At that level, you sold. Means there is a optimum point. At that time, you should exit out of that business. And only by doing this, I made all my corpus. And in fact, he that the exit that he made was on his third business. That is not his first business, that is a third business. First he was started up with an ATM maintenance, reached a particular optimum level, and that level he sold the business and get out. Again started with another startup, but that was not very successful. Then this is the third startup. And very interesting note, all startup comes with non-compete fee, and a huge sum is paid. Huge sum means huge sum is paid, about 13, 14 crores for the takeover is paid. At least his share will be solidly more than 50%, 7.5 crores it came. This fellow at that year, he procured a SPAP, single premium annuity policy, where he told, Ganesh, I'm not sure. Neither I have not accumulated funds, wealth and all till today, nor I'm going to accumulate it. In any case, I'll put once again everything in business. For my future, I want something, so I'm buying this policy. On that day only, I come to know that there is something called a single premium annuity policy is there, where once money will be paid, next 20 years it is blocked. From the end of 20th year, some cases, from the end of 15th year, some cases, they will start paying an annuity until the end of the life of that person and his surveyors or nominees, who is his representatives, for another 15 years. And whatever balance is there at that moment, that will be given to them. Very interesting policy. Crux of our discussion. I asked him, see, next 1 year, what you will do? I understand you sold the business, maybe for takeover, this, that, and all, another 3-4 months will be there. Two things I'll do, Ganesh. I'll not be in India at all for 2-3 months. I'll go to some other foreign country, Rome, do something, and okay. You go to foreign country, you do something, and then you learn something. By that time, I'll get one more idea, Ganesh. Great. With that idea, I'll come back to India, and then I'll take my bike and go from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, Kashmir back to Kanyakumari. For what? To strengthen that idea. Then I'll start business again. This is a fellow who in his life has seen 3 or 4 business cycle of high rise and high downfall. Points for our discussion. Business is little different, and here a necessary protection is required to indemnify the risk alone. Let me repeat, to risk alone. Insurance companies are trying different policies. One of the model policy is single premium annuity policy. Endowment policies, we are aware, I'm not pressing. Investment policies, we all know, will get a better return than the endowment policy. Today, investment policies are the talk of the town. You come across various advertisement. You invest 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh for 25 years, you'll get back 45 lakhs. You invest 50,000 rupees for next 15 years, you'll get back 25 lakhs. All these are all talk of the town. Why all these are all talk of the town is because people want a little income extra. But again, when we carefully read some of those contracts, agreements, nothing is guaranteed will be there in the last line. Today, everything is discussed based on the past history. Now, is really insurance is an investment? Answer is a very big no. Then what for insurance is there? Just to protect somebody's risk. We have something called as life risk policy or a term policy, very popularly called as, where only vanilla risk is covered. If something happens in that year, that insurance company will pay. Beyond that, nothing, no questions, nothing they will speak. So for everything, percentages are determined separately. Life risk policy, term policy, entire premium collected is value of supply. In case of single premium annuity policy, 10% of the premium charged is going to be value of supply. And in case of investment policy, if expenses ratio is known, how much is going to be spent by the insurance company, expense ratio is known, or investment ratio is known, any one, this or that. If expense ratio or investment ratio, any one is known, you can determine the value of supply, which is expense ratio. Value of supply equal to expense ratio. Either expense ratio will be given 40% of the premium collected will be used for expenses, insurance company expenses. Then if a premium of 1 lakh is collected, 40 rupees will be value of supply. If in case that is not known, very simple. It will be determined as per the other policy models, which is 25% for first year, second and subsequent year premium 12.5%. No, sir, we know our investment ratio. Investment is 70%. If I collect 1 lakh premium from you, 70% I will invest in the fund. Good. Which means 30% you will not invest, which means 30% becomes your expense ratio. So in case of investment policy, either the investment percentage or the expense percentage, if it is given, that expense percentage will become value of supply. I have an investment policy, but no information is available. How much is going to be invested? How much is going to be expensed? Then it will be determined like any other policy. First year premium, 25% is value of supply. Second and subsequent year premium, 12.5% will become value of supply. Many times in investment policy, they will not mention for what purpose it is spent. At what purpose, how much they are going to spend. They will not do. Exceptionally, they will do. Rare policies, they will do. So if you all want, we will do a problem on life insurance. If you feel like no, this discussion itself is sufficient, we can move forward. I'll leave that choice to you, because you people are going to do. For me, it is nothing. Yes, quick. Can we do a problem, or can we proceed for the next method of valuation, or the next type of valuation? Quick. Views divided. Quick. I think I asked a question. Come on. நான் என்ன பதிலா சொல்ல சொன்னேன்? கேள்விக்கு ஒரு பதில். See, I have not even received 10% reply. Hope you had a opportunity to see the problem. Um, Let me repeat it. One of your important problem, a problem like this is earlier appeared in exam. You can make a note of this problem. In my view, a very specific problem, takes care of all aspects of the rule that we discussed. MNYL, a company engaged in insurance business, gives the detail of premium, spelling mistake, premium collected during the month, determine value of supply. MNYL collects about 50 lakhs on single premium annuity policy, no first year. It's a single premium annuity policy, so only once policy premium will come. And MNYL have two investment policies, investment policy series 1 and series 2. Series 1, 75 lakh rupees is collected during the month. Of that, fresh policies, new policies, worth is 25 lakhs. Which means, sir, balance 50 lakhs is what? Renewal policy. Last year they would have paid. This year, if they paid subsequently, it is called as a renewal policy, which is 50 lakhs. Additionally, one more information is given. From the premium receipt, you can know that the expenses ratio on this policy is 35%. That's additional information to you to take certain decisions. Endowment policy is there, which is 50 lakhs, first year premium 15 lakhs, second and subsequent year premium 35 lakhs. Sir, how you arrive that number? Very simple, the balancing figure. MNYL investment policy series 2, 50 lakh rupees totally collected. Of that first year premium, new policy this month, people joined is 20 lakhs. Balance 30 lakhs is renewal premium. Already they last year they enrolled, or last but year they enrolled, or 4 years before they enrolled, or 7 years before they enrolled. That series picks up. Life risk policy 15 lakhs, of that first year premium is 5 lakhs. We need to determine value of supply. Let me repeat it. It's easy to read a theory content. When you put the thoughts into this problem, you will know the importance of a practical problem. As about 8 of you requested for a practical problem, I came up quick, as there was a substantial interest associated with that. Quick. So hope all of you all completed the discussions problem and arrived answers. Actually, we need to sum up all this and get a final number. Okay, I do agree with you, but we need to determine a final number. Final number as a whole. Vishnu Prasad. Good. Vishnu Prasad, check your B and D answer. I think the rest all is correct. Ganapati, மத்த ரெண்டும் choiceல விட்டீங்களா? B and D. Okay. Deepak. Deepak. Deepak, numbering le though problem. I'm not able to link the transactions properly. Okay. Now, I'm not sure. A few of you tried. I'm not sure where all the others are heading, but your answer should be something like this. Hope the Excel screen is visible to you. Okay. One minute. A few of you tried it. It's good, but again, your answers has to be something like this. Yes, hope you could able to appreciate it. Single premium annuity policy, which will be straight away 50 lakh into 10%, 5 lakh. Investment policy as your investment percentage. Sorry, expense ratio is mentioned. Expense ratio is mentioned. So expense ratio will become value of supply. If alternatively they would have given investment percentage, we would have determined the expenses ratio, which will be expenses ratio, which is be nothing but gross 100 minus investment percentage. I don't know why somebody I saw they brought in multiplied with 75, sorry, 65%. 65% is the amount invested. See, in an investment policy, which is collected by insurance company, they will say some number. I will invest so much. I'll collect from you 100, but I'll invest only 65. That is why what happens in many insurance policy, they will say don't close within 5 years. Because in 5 years, what you paid itself, you will not get. The next 5 years is for accumulation, and the third 5 years is for growth. That is why always the average insurance policy should be for the period more than 15 years. Because you might pay 100 rupees today. It's as simple as that today you buy a gold. You buy a gold, you lose 20%, minimum 15%. Sir, na sir, everybody சொல்றீங்க. I'm not joking. We are buying a 100 rupee product for 115 rupees. For a minute, think. We are going to wear it, we are going to use it, we are going to enjoy it. That and all is separate. For the purpose of enjoyment, I'm buying it. You say to me, I'll agree with you. For an investment, I bought gold. Gold is not an investment in its jewelry form, not in its bullion form. Bullion is an investment. In a bullion, what mean I'm going to buy a gold bar for, let's say, 10 grams. No doubt it's an investment because what I pay and what I get is equal. I don't get a great value addition on it. But if a jewelry is bought, 13%, 12%, 14% is added as wastages, which means 100 rupee product, I pay 115 rupee and buy home. This 15% return to get it, I should hold it minimum for a period of 3 years. So that's why again they'll say take some of the oldest jewelry and exchange it in exchange. If you're going for an exchange model, don't exchange what you have procured it very recently. See, sometimes people say from their in-house, very own desi knowledge. They will not come with us. They don't read finance. They don't read SFM. They don't read many things. They come up with their own knowledge and share. If you're going to be in touch with your grandmother say, "So வாங்கிருப்படா அதை மாத்துடா இப்போ ஏன்டா இதை மாத்தினேன்னு திட்டுவாங்க." That lady will shout at us, we won't understand. For us, this 3 years before we bought, that is not, the design itself is not good. We will change this. There will be 7 years old one element, one same yellow metal. That 7 years old yellow metal, you like it, so you're not ready to change. Actually, you lose by changing the 3-year old yellow metal than the 7-year old yellow metal. Your ideal exchange should be 7-year-old yellow metal in case of exchange. Many case, that's all different. Sometimes business and emotions are different. Finance and emotions are different. Sometimes it's an emotional event, sometimes it's a financial event. The more blend we make, the more growth is possible. Let me repeat. Let the let this whole world does not understand all this, but you and me have to understand all this. We are forced because we read all these numbers. So coming back here, investment policy, expenses ratio is mentioned. Expenses ratio is mentioned, which is 35%, they say. In the policy itself, means premium collected into 35% will become value of supply. Sir, you told I have to go as per other policy. No, correct. You have to go for other policy when investment ratio is not mentioned. Get your policy number 2. In policy number 2, investment ratio is not mentioned. In policy number 2, check the question. Question is silent about its investment ratio or expenses ratio, which means for that policy, come back here, recollect this point. For this policy, no doubt you have to go only by what? The other policy model, which is 25% for first year and 12.5% for second and subsequent year. So come back here, which is being followed. Investment policy series 2, 25% for first year, 12.5% for second and subsequent year. Endowment policy, endowment policy. In case of endowment policy, first year premium 25%, second and subsequent year premium 12.5%, followed by life risk policy. See, entire money is paid for risk 100%. If something happens, insurance company will pay. If nothing happens, money goes to insurance company. The best policy every individual should take is life risk policy. Generally, a policy which is not much promoted by the insurance personnel, insurance advisors are this. But for a genuine insurance advisor, no one will promote this policy. Why, sir? The least commission paid is term policy. The highest commission paid are endowment and investment policy. So that is why everybody will promote to you, sir, you pay 30,000 now. Uh, for next 15 years, you will get 15 lakhs. If I pay 30,000 today, my insurance advisor on an average get minimum 6,000 rupees as his commission from insurance company. But no doubt, I commit here for, I'm not saying this, but understand that policy has a purpose. Let's understand with its purpose. Everyone should opt for a term policy because that is what is going to protect you. As often we understand, insurance is no more an investment. So sure, all of you got it. A lot of you individually got it right. One or two transaction. Ganapati, hope you got how to value the B and D transaction. You have shared. You are unable to proceed it. So hope all of you had. Any doubts? Yes, I would take it. Anybody has any doubt? Yes. Can I move forward to the last two methods? Very simple methods that concludes the discussion. So do I need to present in exam like this? I would recommend yes. So you refer the percentage, you determine the value of supply in rupees. Okay, so that would be better than presenting it very clumsy way. It helps you. You can make a refer note one. You can say come out and write. If investment ratio is given, you can arrive expenses ratio. All that you can do. Okay. Presentation. Coming back to our discussions on the last method, a determination in case of used goods. How to determine value of supply in case of used goods? What do we mean by used goods here? A goods is already used by person and then subsequently sold. It could be a scrap, it could be a car, it could be anything. He buys goods and he sell goods. If a person who is dealing in used goods, second hand goods, very popularly called as, he is allowed to pay tax only on the difference between selling price and purchase price. Okay, he's been given, he's been blessed by this rule that he can pay tax on the difference between buying and selling and buying price. For example, let's take a situation: somebody buy a steel scrap from one of the trader for, let's say, 100 rupees. They sell to a steel mill for 120 rupees. Law says pay the tax only for difference of 20 rupees, provided you don't claim ITC on the purchases. On 100 rupee, already there will be on GST. No, don't claim that GST. Difference between your selling and purchase price, you pay tax. Any case, this is a restriction that comes from the rule, and that restriction is applicable if and only if somebody is going to opt this method. So a person bought a car for 3.5 lakh, did some value additions, painted, changed the tire, this, that, and all. Some 50,000 rupees he spent, sold it for 5 lakhs. Sold it for 5 lakhs. Now, on what value he has to pay GST? He bought it for 3.5 lakhs, incurred some expenses for 50,000, sold it for 5 lakhs. On what value he has to pay GST? First question. Is he liable to pay GST? Answer is yes. On what value? On 1 lakh, on 50,000, on 1.5 lakhs, or none of the above. To add fragments, I may also add 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh, 50,000. On what value he has to pay GST? Quick. Somebody purchased a car for 3.5, incurred 50,000 rupees expenses, and sold it for. Is cars is a used goods? Yes, cars are used goods. So, is he need to pay on 5 lakhs or on 1.5 lakhs or on 1 lakhs or on 50,000? Quick. Hope all of you appreciate this question. It's the easiest question. I want a lot of you to answer. In case of buying and selling of goods, used goods, the valuation says a difference between selling price and bought price, purchase price. We are liable to pay tax. Car was purchased for 3.5 lakhs from an individual customer, sold for 5 lakhs to another individual customer. In between, this fellow made 1.5 lakhs. Is all 1.5 lakhs is his money? No. He spent about 50,000 rupees in polishing, in this, that, changing, rewinding the tire, changing little parts in battery, blah, 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 blah. Value of supply, as per this rule, 5 lakhs, 1.5 lakhs, 1 lakh, 50,000. Quick answers. Balaji, check your answer. Quick. I don't find any difficulty in the question at all. Whoever answered, all of you all right, but except the name I have called. Quick. It's a difference between purchase and sale price. Nothing great about it. 5 lakhs minus 1.5, so 3.5 lakhs. 1.5 lakhs. On 1.5 lakhs, they have to pay tax. Sir, in case if I get a negative value addition, I bought it for 3.5 lakhs, but after I have sold it only for 3 lakhs, I get a negative value addition. Don't be bothered about it. Negative value additions are excluded. Negative value additions are not liable for GST. They are all ignored from GST. A special method, it can be used for scrap dealers, can be used for whoever deals in used goods. They are a dealer, they are dealing in used goods. Let me repeat it. They bought the car, holded it for some time, and then they sold the car. No doubt, they can opt this method. In case of hypothecated assets, which are sold subsequently, preferably the asset is a repossessed asset and it is being sold subsequently. How to determine the value here? Purchase price, if I bought from somebody, I will know. This is a repossessed asset. Hope you will appreciate it. A bank, a NBFC has funded for the vehicle. Other party has not paid, so the vehicle is repossessed. In case of a repossessed asset, points for our discussion is how to determine value of supply. For every quarter of use, value will be reduced by 5% from the original purchase value. For every quarter of use, somehow that word quarter is missing here. Oh, okay. For every quarter of use, 5% will be depreciated. That is, asset was purchased for 5 lakhs originally. That fellow itself used it regularly and paid money for 10 quarters. 5 into 10 quarters, 50%. Asset is now reprocessed because the fellow has not paid the loan properly. 5 lakhs minus 2.5 lakhs. Balance 2.5 lakhs is there. This balance 2.5 lakhs, they sold the asset, they got 3 lakh rupees. They adjusted the 2.5 lakh loan, paid back him 50,000 rupees. In those circumstances, question before us is, for that 50,000, let me repeat, for that 50,000, they are liable to pay GST under value addition. So that is how a model that need to be determined. So from the original price, reduce 5% per quarter of use, you will arrive a repossessed value of the asset. Sale price minus repossessed value of the asset, a difference will come. If it is a positive value addition, that is liable for GST. Negative value addition, ignored. Any expenses I incurred, can it be eligible for deduction? My view is no. When we read it verbatim, that rule, the rule does not allow for any deduction for expenses. It speaks about the purchase price only. In case I have voucher, in case I have coupons, how to determine value? The value for which it is redeemed, then that value will be treated as value of supply. I have a voucher, he redeems it for 500, then 500 becomes value of supply. I have a voucher, he redeems for only 400, 400 becomes value of supply. Pure agent, 1 minute, check the time and then decide. Pure agent alone, I am not stepping in today. That's a separate discussion by itself. Warrant a deliberation of about 30 minutes. One of your important concepts, reimbursements, how reimbursements has to be handled. A combined reading of section 15 2C read along with section 15.4 and rule 33. 15 2C read along with rule 15.4 and rule 33. A combined discussion will be a discussion on pure agent, and we have 3-4 case study questions which earlier appeared in exam, so that rule becomes important. We'll close the sundry rules and then we'll keep that rule alone open for the next class discussion. Rule 34, which talks about how to determine exchange rate, foreign currency, if it is involved in it, how to determine. If it is goods, don't be bothered, customs rate will be the rate. If it is services, again, don't be bothered. It is as per your generally accepted accounting principles. So AS 13, I believe AS 13, I'm not sure. My memory serves me, it is AS 13. You can determine based on the generally accepted accounting principle. Not AS 13, AS 11, accounting for transactions in foreign currencies. AS 11, I believe. Kindly confirm if you have been comfortable with that accounting standard. I believe AS 11. Yes. Come back here. Rule 35. In case proposes a theory, nothing great, inclusive of. If tax is not collected, value of supply includes the respective tax. Nothing great about it. Rule 35. 34. Which exchange rate I'm going to import service? At what price I have to multiply? I've imported services. I'm liable to pay tax and the reverse charge. $50,000 I paid for import of service. Good. $50,000 into which day you make payment. On that day, what is the exchange rate? That will be accepted as per your generally accepted accounting principle. GAAP. Okay. Is US GAAP, sir? No, no, no. Indian GAAP. Indian GAAP means Ind AS or accounting standards. Wherever what is applicable to the respective person, based on that, it will get decided. So, any case, coming back here, that sums up the various valuation provisions, keeping behind with us only one provision for our discussions at a later point in time, which is going to be uh, rule 33, which we will take it up in our next session when we meet, and then we will make a beginning towards input tax credit. Thank you all for effective and patient listening. Any doubts? Yes, I would take it. Yes.